Welcome back to the Adventures of a Disney Dad podcast. My name is Matt Brandenburg, and I'm a dad of three and the founder of adventuresofadisneydad.com, a travel agent with the Magic for Less Travel, and your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Chip Robinson, soon to be dad of five. We're counting down the days. Chip, how is everything going this evening?
Great. I think we're 10 weeks away. I think this is what Kelly told me yesterday. We're 10 weeks away. So,
Is the baby
uh,
room ready?
yeah, that's her forte. Like, I just build the stuff. She does all the painting and all that stuff. But another week playoffs. We got Westerville South, round two. So, big game Friday.
Massillon Tigers march on. We love to see it. We are joined tonight by a special guest, Max Huber of the Magic for Less Travel. He's a travel agent and a dad of two, ages 7 and 5. Max, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you?
Oh, things are great. The snow here in Minnesota is melting. The first snow, right before Halloween. You gotta love it. But I'm not evicting one of my kids to let the fifth one in. So Chip, more power to you, man.
I'll tell you,
It's
we
crazy.
had snow in Chicago for Halloween, and it was not enjoyable.
No,
We had
it was
snowed.
Not fun. Max is rocking his Harry Potter t-shirt for the theme of the evening. We're going to be talking about a little bit of Disney because we always have to mix it in, but we're going to be talking about Universal Studios Express Pass and Express Pass Unlimited. It's probably one of the most frequently asked questions I get for guests that are popping over to Universal, mostly because it's so much different than Genie Plus. And so we're going to be diving into a lot of things related to Universal today. But before we get into it, Max, tell us a little bit of your background. When did you get started with the Magic for Less, and kind of how did you fall into travel?
My first experience was I started listening to the Be Our Guest podcast. Mike, Pam, Ricky, because I found my passion again for Disney once I got into my 30s, ran the Disney marathon and was just like hooked from there. So I started listening to the podcast, had Mike book me a couple trips. And then I had family and friends that knew I was the Disney nerd. So they would ask me questions. I was working more for them than anybody should in that scenario. And then I was like, I should get paid to do this. So then I reached out to the Magic for Less, knowing them from the podcast. And I started my training in April of 2019, graduated in July of 2019, 5-6 months before a worldwide pandemic. So that was awesome, but we survived through it. And it's been a great run. It's a great team. I love living vicariously through people that go to Disney, Universal, cruises, all inclusives, whatever. It's just fun to see their pictures and help them plan it, and then just close my eyes and be like, yeah, I'm on a beach drinking a margarita too. That's cool.
It's funny. You and I have basically the same origin story. But Chip and I both love the Be Our Guest podcast. They're great folks. They have a great show. And I started listening to it, training for a marathon, the Disney marathon, just like you. So that was my first exposure to the TMFLT team. And again, they're all great folks and we support each other. And we're happy to have Max here on the show. To the extent that you're interested in having Max book a trip for you, I'll make sure that the link to do so is in the show notes. Again, his services, just like mine, are free to use, so feel free to reach out to him. Max, generally, where can people find you on social media?
The Magic Travel Guy. So, I'm most active on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I do have X, formerly known as Twitter, but I try to stay away from it as much as possible.
Well, Chip and I talk about this, I think, every week, and I can't. Because he always gives his X handle, and I can't do it with X. Every time I go in there, the level of toxicity sometimes is just a little too much for me, and also the level of clickbait is a little too much for me. So sometimes it just gets me off on the wrong track. But let's jump into the news here a little bit before we jump into our full segment. We've got a couple bits of news that I think are worth talking about this week. Disney just announced that they spent over $8 billion with a B to buy out the remainder of Hulu. I believe it was bought out from Comcast. I think they're clearly taking a stronger stance on streaming in the United States. I think as a company, that's a really interesting move. The funnier, I think, note, well, it's funny now, but it's probably a nightmare scenario for most of us. 71 passengers were evacuated from the monorail when it suffered a flat tire. Chip and Max, did you guys see this?
Oh, yeah. I wonder what their compensation was. That was my thought.
Nothing. I would imagine it's nothing.
Yeah, back in the day, something like that, they're gonna They're going to throw you maybe a fast pass if you're on the way to Magic Kingdom or whatever. But yeah, I saw it. I was just glad that none of my clients were down there and I wasn't down there. I've been stuck on the Skyliner for a while, but
That is literally my worst nightmare.
yeah,
The Skyliner.
at least on the monorail, you're like on something. But yeah, anytime they got to bring in like the Reedy Creek District, the fire crews to evacuate you, that's not fun.
When you were on the Skyliner and you got stuck, did you just wait?
Yeah.
Was it high winds or like what was it?
The longest I ever had was like 10 minutes. And I think it was a combination of there were starting to be some storms, and then they had to get some individuals in wheelchairs off. So, that took a little bit longer. And then I think they were trying to figure out their plan, because I've been on it where we get off and then they're not letting anybody on, and it's completely shut down as a storm rolls through.
That just happened to us on our last trip where we got off and they shut it down. And I'll tell you, the winds while we were riding on it, I tell people the Skyliner is fun, it's exciting, it's another attraction, it's safe, and it is all of those things. But when that wind is howling and that thing is moving, it's a little nerve-wracking, no doubt about it. With respect to Universal, we've got a couple of Universal related announcements. Universal quietly raised ticket prices about 12.5%, an average of $10 per ticket. And they also reported in their Q3 earnings that attendance is back in line with their 2019 pre-pandemic levels. Max, I think you'd agree that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of guests going to the Magic for Less going to Universal, right?
Yeah, people are going back. It's a little more unpredictable. Back in the day, you used to be able to look at a crowd calendar, and they were pretty accurate on when people were going to be going and to what parks. There are more people going back, but it's just kind of unpredictable. You'll have some days that are low and then some days that are just slammed, where in the past you wouldn't expect to see that. But I think things are going to start to level out, with school and the people just getting back into traveling. I think we're going to see some stabilization, but yeah, people are going back, and the Universal and Disney are trying to take advantage of that and put some more money in the coffers.
And to that end, I think there's a lot of excitement around Universal right now with all of the things that they have coming and that they're building and that they're announcing, which I think we would all love to see a little bit more from Disney in that regard. With respect to their announcements, they've announced that they're focusing more on targeting younger visitors. They're building a DreamWorks area that'll have a lot of troll stuff. And then obviously they've got Epic Universe, which is their third gate on the way. I think that's a welcomed addition. Right now, I think we've talked about it on a couple past episodes, but I think when you've got kids that are under, what was Jocelyn saying, 42 inches, under 42 inches old, 42, yeah. That's where you start to see kids really want to go to Universal. And I think that the more they're targeting younger kids with Trolls and Minions and things like that, my 3-year-old loves Minions. I think that they're going to see a lot more from families in that regard, and that's going to mean more at the hotels too, which is, I think, going to be interesting.
Exactly. When we go, we do spend a lot of time, because my kids, like you said, 7 and 5. We spent a lot of time in Seuss Landing, just because it's like you walk into the pages of a Dr. Seuss book, and so it's great for kids that age. But you get over into like the Marvel and Jurassic Park areas, there's not a lot that younger kids can do, and then they cut down the whole like Woody the Woodpecker area over in Universal Studios Florida. They really lost a large chunk for that, like you said, under 42 crowd. So to see Epic Universe come, the Mario stuff, and to see the DreamWorks, like the Trolls, the kids are going to love that. If there's walk around Trolls characters, kids are going to lose their mind. And like me as a approaching 40-year-old, I'm probably going to lose my mind too, knowing all the Trolls that my sisters and I had growing up.
We saw them our first trip after the pandemic, so there was still social distancing and masks. But we were able to see like Guy Diamond and Princess Poppy. They were at Trolls doing like a dance thing. And my kids absolutely lost it. It was worth going to Universal just for that for my kids. But we got stuck in a point where, the Jurassic World River Adventure was getting refurbed. And when you take that out of it, like there is very little that kids can do in those areas. There's some activities related stuff, but in terms of attractions, it's tough for little kids. The last thing Universal started doing, I think it was this week, which I found really interesting, was they started using new facial recognition software for theme park entry. So you stand in front of a mirror to verify your identity and your tickets. Right now, it's optional. I would assume that if testing goes well, it's something that they're going to roll out across the board. I don't know that this is going to be something that makes people get through faster, but they must seem to think that that's the case. Have you guys seen this at all, or have you seen any of the videos or pictures of it?
I've seen a couple pictures, but I just wondered, like, I think it's gonna take slow down if like the first. Now, if you're an annual pass holder, I think it'll be like real quick, just go. But your first time, I think it's gonna be a little rough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of data issues about like, are they storing your facial recognition stuff? And I think there's a lot of questions about that with the fingerprints at Disney also that have been kind of alleviated, but we'll see where that goes. I just found it to be pretty interesting, and it'll be fun to see where that goes in the future. So let's jump into our main segment. Let's talk about Express Pass. Max, for those that aren't familiar, let's just talk about what is Express Pass.
So, those that are familiar with Disney terminology, it's kind of their version of Fast Pass, Lightning Lane, Genie Plus. It gets you to bypass the regular line into the express line. So a lot of these rides are going to have two lines. They're going to have your regular line, and that might have a wait of 45 minutes, so to speak. And then if you have Express Pass, Universal Express Pass, one of their add-ons, you're going to get into the faster line. It's not front of line. You don't automatically skip to the front of line. You might still have to stand in line, but the lines are usually dramatically lower than what you're going to find in the regular line. So if you're used to Lightning Lane, things like that, there are some similarities. The nice thing about Express Pass is you don't have to go and actually make a selection. You don't have to go into the app and be like, I'm going to go on Tyranodon Flyers, or I'm going to go on the Seuss train trolley ride. You can just like show up and get into the line, scan your ticket, and go. So there are aspects of it that are probably better than how Disney does their system.
And so in essence, you can't really get shut out from a ride because you pick whatever you want, assuming that they all have Express Pass. And I think there's one or two, Hagrid's Motorbike, and there's one other, I can't remember offhand, that are not included in Express Pass. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I have it on my notes here, but most rides are. I mean, you can even get on Velocicoaster with Express Pass. Hagrid's just, they've done kind of an interesting like virtual queue system for them in the past, so I don't think that they've hopped onto it for that ride. But I mean, if you look down the list of Universal Studios Florida, Islands of Adventure, and even now Volcano Bay, there's a number of rides that have access to it.
Chip, you're a water park guy. Yeah, right?
It has Express Pass. Like that might be a game changer.
Chip, you have not been to Volcano Bay, have you?
I have not. No, we passed it a couple times. I'm like, so I think
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you guys were talking about the Dr. Seuss and the trolls, and I might have to go at Christmas because the Grinch is by far my youngest daughter's favorite character. She watches the Grinch year round, and so.
And there's a character meet with the Grinch, right, Max?
Yeah, you can do a character breakfast. And then when we were there last year, they put on an amazing stage show. It's kind of a retelling of how the Grinch stole Christmas. And the actor who plays the Grinch is phenomenal. We've seen the Grinch like walking around in the past. So it's cool. And the Grinch, the people who portray the Grinch are snarky as hell. Like, they're not just going to be like, oh, hey, I'm the Grinch. They're going to be like, you smell like rotten eggs. They're going to like play as the Grinch. So you're really kind of like in it when you meet the Grinch.
I love it. I love it. With respect to the Express Pass, what are the different types? I think are there one or two different types of Express Pass?
Yep. So you're going to get, you can get a one park Express Pass, a one park unlimited pass, and then you can get like two park passes. Or again, I mentioned Volcano Bay. They have their own kind of system now, and I'll get into that. But so if you do the one park pass, you have to select it for like Universal Studios Florida or Islands of Adventure. You can't, if you were doing a park to park ticket and you only did one park, you'd only be able to access it when you go to that one. The nice thing about the two park pass is it's not that much more for that in comparison, and then you get access to that for Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida. Volcano Bay did not have it when they first opened, and it's newer within the last year, and they have a single park one which gets you access to like a number of rides, or they have an upgraded plus pass, which gets you additional rides. Because there's some of them that are not in their regular system, and then you upgrade it to get their plus pass to get access to, looks like 4 different rides. But yeah, 1 park, 2 park, or then the Volcano Bay stuff.
When you get an express pass at Universal, can you is the difference between regular and unlimited? On regular, you can only ride each ride once, and unlimited, you can ride as many times as you want. If you want to ride Velocicoaster 20 straight times, you can do it. Am I understanding that right?
Well, why would anyone want to do that? Oh my God.
I would do it. I would do it. Velocicoaster is you've never been on Velocicoaster?
No, so here's the thing. I'm not a huge like crazy thrill person. That and like Rip Ride Rocket scare the pants off of me. I've done Incredible Hulk, but Velocicoaster, the one time I had like the courage to do it, the line was like 4 hours, and I was like, I'm not doing it. And then the last time we went, I saw it coming around by Hogwarts, and I was just like, I can't. I will feel like trash the rest of the day. So I have not done it.
You're lucky that you're not coming down with us in a couple weeks, because I'd get a couple beers in you and you'd be on it. I promise.
That's what happened at Disneyland last time I went with the Magic for Less people. They made me go on rides after a fun night the night before, and I was green in the gills, but I did it. So I'm also great at holding bags. So like I would let the entire team go, and I'm like, yeah, I got your backpack. Don't worry, you don't put it in the locker. I got it for you. So
good man.
I am beneficial.
Great Instagram husband.
There is, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. I would definitely encourage anybody, if you can get the courage up or the liquid courage up to do it, definitely try it out, because it's pretty awesome.
Now I got a question with it. Like, how do I get, like, I'm used to a Magic Band. So am I carrying around a badge? What am I doing for the Express Pass?
I was trying to see if I had one, but it's usually just like a paper ticket. You know, you can, if you use the app, I think you can get it linked in that way. But anytime I've had one, it's been a paper ticket, and I've had a lanyard, and I just kind of keep it in there. And then each time you go up, they will scan it. And, you know, if you have the regular Express Pass, the 1 per, they scan that, and then it just kind of like wipes that off the system. And if you tried to use it again, it wouldn't. But yeah, it's just a paper ticket. One thing about things like with Universal and their paper tickets, I always suggest to people to take a photo of it, because just in case, you know, you're walking around, you lose it, it falls off on a ride. If you have that evidence, you could go up to the ticket window or guest services, and they can reprint it. Because I have run into that situation personally, and it was nice somebody mentioned it to me, so I always kind of pass that along.
It's a good tip. So
you carry like a cruise line lanyard type thing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lanyard, and it had like the clear pocket, and then I just, had the barcode facing out, because there was a design on one side, so the barcode was out, and then it was easy just to kind of hold it up instead of taking it out every time.
And I believe if you stay at a premier level hotel at Universal, you get the Express Pass, and I believe they give you a lanyard too.
Yeah, and it's on your ticket. It's on your room key.
Yeah.
In that case. So that's, and you're probably leading into this, but that's one of the benefits of their premier hotels, is that you automatically get unlimited pass built in.
Well, and that is part of what I want to talk about, because I feel like there's a lot more strategy involved in the pricing with Express Pass and the hotels that a lot of people just really aren't aware of, and you really have to think through when you're planning your vacation. Let's talk in general. I believe the pricing is $94-ish up to, is it up to $350?
Yeah. So the Universal Express Unlimited Pass, like just the 1 park pass. So if you did Islands of Adventure, I was looking at it today, and they only had prices through end of December, I think, maybe into January. The lowest was $114.99, and the highest, which was December 26th through the 30th, was $349.99.
Just for one person.
For one person for 1 park. The highest for the 2 park was $350. So $349.99 for 1 park, or $359.99 for 2 parks. So if you're gonna do like the 1 park for $10 more, you get both. But some, $360, that's a lot to swallow in terms of price for just an add-on.
There is a hilarious, if you guys haven't seen this, especially for the dads that listen, Sebastian Maniscalco, the comedian. Are you guys familiar with him at all? That does stand up?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
He's done a he did a podcast where he was talking about taking his family to Universal, and he was talking about how it was like $3,000 before he got in the gate. And he, it was, and it's only the way he can deliver it, right? But it can, the point is it can be expensive. And for those that are used to, paying $27 max for Genie Plus and being upset about it at Disney World, you can be in for a little bit of a sticker shock at Universal. So a lot of my questions that, I want to ask you, Max, based on your experience and those of your guests are like, when it starts to get more expensive, I've heard that the strategy is to look into just getting a room for the night, even if you're not going to stay there. You can check in, and have a room at Disney and have a room at Universal, but you can split stay it, leave Disney and spend 2 or 3 days at Universal so that you can get that express pass included in your room. Is that something that you are often advising guests, or is there another strategy that you like to focus on?
The split stays kind of where it's at. Jocelyn and I have talked about this before, and even if it's a split stay strictly Universal, like if your guests want to do it and they spent one night at a premiere and then took advantage of the express pass for the time that they can, and then moved over to like Cabana Bay and we're a little more comfortable, at least on that first day you can kind of like hammer out your stuff, and then on the rest of the days you can kind of take your time. You've already gotten the lay of the land, seen what things are like. But yeah, it's one of those things you work with your travel agent to figure out the economics of it, and maybe that's putting together a spreadsheet on this is what it's going to cost you to get your room, your tickets, your express pass if you stayed at Dockside Inn and Suites. Or you could stay at Hard Rock Hotel and you're going to get this included, and it might not be that much difference, and you're going to get maybe a better experience at Hard Rock Hotel, especially if you're like a rock fan and you want to go in the pool where there's music underwater. So sometimes you just got to look at it, and there is sticker shock, and it's like you got to take a step back, do the math, see what makes sense. And for some people, like time is money. I hate standing in line. Hate it. So if there's anything that I can do to
Hate, loathe entirely.
yes, well, I hate waiting in line. So if I can like bypass that, I don't know if it's worth $350 for me, but it's something that I would definitely consider, to be like, I really hate standing in line. I know that I've got a 7 and a 5-year-old who hate standing in line. Who are going to be like, Dad, churro, a hot dog. Hey, what's that over there? This line sucks. I want to go to the next ride. And you're like,
So I will agree 1,000,000%. Like I'm very much a time value money guy. I don't think that I've ever been to Disney World and not, with my family at least, and not paid for Genie Plus for that exact reason. But when it's $25 a person, you don't blink at it as much, because if it saves you an hour, it saves you enough. But we went to Universal, and I think it was last January. And I want to say it was like $250 or something the day we were going to go. And I was like, there's no way I'm paying that, because my kids can't ride. They're under that 42-inch mark. So we're really not going to get the benefit of it. And we tried to do just the Hogwarts Express, and I think we waited like 2 hours. I remember the entire time with my kids sitting there being really upset about waiting in the line. All I could think about was, I wish I would have just paid the Express pass or booked the room for the night or whatever, because it was really frustrating. But building into that, Max, like one of the things that frustrates me when I pay for Disney Plus or Genie Plus, and I know Chip feels this way too, is sometimes the lines for Genie Plus are long. Ugh. And sometimes it's hard to get them on the app, for a time that's convenient for you. When you're paying this much money for this product at Universal, are the lines shorter, or are they still kind of like Genie Plus, where you might still be waiting, 30 minutes? Considerably shorter than the other line, but still a line.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever waited, when I've gotten it, more than like 15 minutes.
Okay.
For any ride.
Awesome.
And there's some other times, like you might get an express pass. Like let's say you have a customer service issue, like your ticket's screwed up, you can't get into the park for a while. We've had it before where they've given us like individual, like 12 tickets. And I've used them that way as well. But either way, like I've never been in one that's super long. Anytime I look at them when I'm walking by, they're shorter. I mean, for some of your like e-ticket rides, you still might have to wait a little bit, but if it's 4 hours, it's not 4 hours anymore, but for Velocicoaster, tops on Express, you're probably going to be like 45 minutes.
So it'll be like Tron,
Yeah.
When you do the virtual queue in Tron, I mean, it's about 45 minutes.
Yeah, they tried to make it, and for that price point, I think if the lines were still crazy long, you'd probably have some outrage. So I think they do everything that they can to really move it along. I've been in some lines where they are pretty much just letting everyone in Express Pass through, and then so if there's 20 people in line, those 20 get in before they let any single person in the regular line through.
So it does sound like it's got more benefits than what we see with Genie Plus.
Yeah.
With respect to the Express Unlimited Pass and the regular Express Pass, what are you looking for from your guests or friends or family or even yourself to consider doing unlimited? Like where would you push somebody like, hey, I think you should try the unlimited pass instead of just doing the one ride or one opportunity per time or whatever you'd want to describe it.
Yeah, if I have people that are like, I'm just going for Harry Potter. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to go for Harry Potter and I want to do all the rides and I just want to do them. I'll be like, you kind of got to think about unlimited pass, because if you wanted to get all of your efforts in, you do this. Or if people are really big into like thrill rides, most people that I have, they're fine with just the Express Pass. One, do it, done. If they want to do it again, they'll walk by, and if the line's short, they'll do it. But the unlimited is nice. Like if you are like, I freaking love the Incredible Hulk coaster and I just want to ride it 12 times in a row, but then it doesn't even make sense for something like that just because that's one single ride. And they're like, are you going to spend $360 just to ride the Incredible Hulk all day? I mean, if you've got
Do it
that
like
kind
a
of money,
YouTube channel.
if you've got that kind of money, themagictravelguy.com. It's if somebody the big thing is if somebody really wants to just like go from morning till night, they don't want to stop and they just want to go on all the rides, then you got to upgrade. You got to do the unlimited, because you're going to be able to get on more of them and you're going to just like crush the day.
It sounds like it's Genie Plus in the sense of you can do it once and then go find a different one.
Yeah.
Now I tried to do it by getting like those anytime fast passes, or like if I get a rain delay or whatever like that, I get the anytime. I'll be like, hey, let's go ride Pirates again or something like that. It's one of our tricks, I guess.
Are there any other advantages to the Express Pass system in comparison to Disney that I guess things that you like better at Universal and the way they operate this system in comparison to the Genie Plus system for those that are familiar with it?
I mean, really, it's just the not having to pre-plan, not having to sit there and find what's available. Like that.
Wake up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, wake up at 7 a.m., make your first selection. It's really, you can just go, and as you're walking or looking at the app or looking at the time guides that are around the park, you can be like, oh, this has this short of a wait, or you just walk by a ride and see the Express Pass line is short. You can just hop right in. You don't have to scroll through your app, and then if you're all of a sudden, if you made one for Pirates Chip and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, we're over here by Big Thunder and I want to switch to that. And you got to get on your phone. You got to switch it around. You can just do it. And I mean,
Chip's phone's dead by then.
Well, Chip, get one of those battery packs, man.
I got 3 of them.
That's the plug. Get a fuel rod.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was gonna say I like the fact that you're not on your phone. You can actually walk around with your kids and be like, hey, look at that. Or that's the most appealing thing, is I don't have to look on my phone or be on my phone away from my family.
The worst thing ever at Disney is waking up at 7 a.m. and Genie Plus isn't working. Like it is the worst. And it's even more frustrating when you if you stay up until midnight or you wake up around midnight just to buy it first. Like sometimes I'll do that, is like before I go to sleep, I want to actually buy it for that day. So I'll wait until midnight, or I'll wake myself up at midnight, buy it, go back to sleep. And then it's sold out a couple times now at this point. But then you get up at 7 a.m. and it's like, sorry, your selections aren't loading. And you're like, and then you're scrolling for a half hour. The kids are still sleeping and you start off the day a little crabby. So I think getting rid of that for a paper ticket is a welcomed opportunity in my book for sure.
Yeah.
On a side note.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to ask, does that change on January 9th where you can buy it for your whole trip now, Genie Plus, or is it still at midnight?
You can't buy it in advance yet. You can do that at Disneyland, but you can't do it at Walt Disney World. Yeah.
We used to, like when it first buy it for your whole trip, but it was one of those things, buy it for the whole thing or not. And it made it, you can buy it in advance. And that's another thing. You don't have to wake up early. You don't have to do it. If you don't want to get it and you get to the parks at Universal and you see the lines are crazy and you want to upgrade, you can, as long as it hasn't sold out. You can go to the ticket kiosk and upgrade. But that's another advantage. We used to have that with Genie Plus. You could buy it for our clients in advance and buy it for yourself in advance. And then when they made it a day of thing, it seems like 12 more steps that you have to explain to people. And then there's people that accidentally buy it for the wrong day. And, then you get customer service issues. And I don't know, I'd love to see some changes on that where they look at Express Pass and are like, there's some ways that they're doing this better than us. Don't go with the same price. Disney, do not upgrade the price.
All right. So I wouldn't be mad though if they did some sort of variable pricing where it went a little higher so that the lines were shorter. Because I do think that like at Disney, the Genie Plus and the standby lines are getting a little out of whack with the number of people that are just buying Genie Plus, and there can be some long lines there. But to that end on the pricing, Max, do you see that like the closer you get to a date that it's more like pricing for airlines, that the Express Pass pricing goes up as there's more demand and more people are buying it and it's closer to selling out? Or is it just a flat rate that once they set it, that's the cost until the day before like it sells out?
I could be wrong here, but I think it's flat because I've been checking it periodically and everything seems to be constant. I mean, there might be little like computer nerds in the background checking to see how many they've sold, whatever, then they're going to jack the price up or bring it down. But from what I've seen, it's set it and forget it.
So aside from it selling out, there's not necessarily a huge advantage to buying it early like you would a Southwest flight or something like that.
Yeah, just the fact to know that some people like to look at the fact that if they've already spent the money, then it's out of sight, out of mind. And then they can go into their trip just being like, I'm all even, I'm set. That money's in the past. That's already been paid for. Now I'm here. I'm enjoying this. Because then if you go to the ticket window that day and they're like, oh yeah, Express Pass is $250 a person, and you have a family of 4, and you're like, here's my credit card, and there's $1,000 more, that might affect your day in a negative way.
Yeah, that would definitely have an impact. No doubt about it. So with respect to what are some of your tips for either maximizing the value of the pass or, just first timers like Chip going to Universal and using the Express Pass for the first time?
I think one of the big things is just getting familiar with the map. Look at the map beforehand, the night before you go to the park, kind of get your plan, but any plan, whether it's Universal, whether it's Disney, things are going to get blown up and things are going to change, but have some of the highlights. I like to take a map when I get there and I circle and I sit down with my kids. I'm like, which ones do we want to do? And then my big thing is to try to nail those, not in a way where I'm running around from park to park, but where I am, doing it in a concise manner where if like I'm in Seuss Landing, I knock that out and then I move on to the next thing. With it, again, you've got that flexibility. So if you're walking by Dudley Do-Right Ripsaw Falls and the Express Pass line is nothing and you want to hop on, you hop on. So I think the big thing, again, for first timers to get the maximum value is to have a little bit of a plan, knowing there's flexibility, and then just like doing the rides, and even if you're like, I don't know if I want to do it, but 2 people in your party do, send them on it, send them on the go do it. And maybe you go check out some other rides, but just do the stuff. You've got it. You've already paid for it. Go enjoy the rides.
So one of the things you said earlier is maybe doing a split stay where you're staying at the premiere. Would you put it at the end of get the advantage of the Express Pass at the end, or would you put it at the beginning?
There's 2 ways to look at that. If you do it at the beginning, then you get the deluxe, the premier resort, and then you're going from New York Strip down to like Ground Chuck when you do that downgrade. So, but at least if you do it that way, you start off with a bang. You get it, you do all this stuff and it's awesome. But if you do it at the end, you're like, dang, I'm leaving here with a New York Strip and I had the side of mushrooms and I had my baked potato and it was delightful. And then you're going to remember that. So then the next time you call your travel agent from the Magic for Less, you're like, I had this great memory, and it involved Express Pass at a premier resort, and so you're going to do it again. So
Yeah.
I think you also
I
get the advantage of knowing what you would wait in line for,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you
That's what I
really
was
enjoy a
thinking.
ride, you're like, I'll wait 45 minutes for Velocicoaster because it was so awesome when I didn't wait in line at all. You get that advantage there.
yeah, and
I think it's
if you're
also
the kind
good.
if you're the kind of person, like if this was Chip's first time and he's like, I really want to get the lay of the land, then you stay, so you can walk around. You walk around with your kids, you enjoy it. Like I'm such a visual person. I can look at it at a map, but there's something different once you walk into the park and you see actually how far it is to go from this ride to this ride. You see what the line looks like, and you see the excitement that is built within you and your kids as you see that ride, and then you can plan. So maybe you've talked me into doing it at the end. Damn it.
Well, what's funny is, so if you come into my classroom, my windows, we have to cover our windows. Mine are all park maps,
Mm.
Disney and Universal, because our program in our school goes to Universal and Disney every year. So I always tell the kids, hey, bring me maps back. So I've definitely looked at the Universal map a lot of times in my in my 5 years being in the school. So
The universal map is interesting because it looks a lot smaller on the map than it actually is when you get there. It's big and spread out, and I think they keep the two parks so tight on the map, so it kind of gives you this false sense of I can really move around here quickly, and then you start walking around, and it's like it's going to take me a lot longer than I anticipated to walk from the entrance to Jurassic Park or whatever. And going back to that, Max, are there any strategies? Well, I guess if you've got the Express Pass, you don't necessarily care about rope dropping a certain area or anything like that. But do you have any strategies of kind of when you tell people to go to Harry Potter or when you tell people to try and go to Velocicoaster or Jurassic Park in those areas? Like, do you tell them to save it till the end of the night when the castle's lit up, or what are your tips in that regard?
I usually try to tell people that there's going to be a mad rush at the beginning on the big ones, on Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, on Velocicoaster. So unless you are in that first wave, you might want to wait a while, just because like everybody else is going, that's where they're going to go. When I've gone, like the last time we did it, we went to Seuss Landing and we had no line. We had Express Pass and there was no line because other people started to go through and they're like, oh, well, let's just stop here. And so the regular line built up. The express line was just like flying through. So we got through all of those rides and we hadn't even been in the park like an hour. And so then we were like, all right, well, what are we going to go check out next? So if there's stuff that you're like, that is going to be busy, maybe don't go right away. But if you do go right away, make sure you are like right away. Like you are sleeping outside of Islands of Adventure, popping out of your sleeping bag and hopping in. Just because some of those, they do get busy, even with Express Pass.
And their park hours are pretty variable, and they change them on short notice. I went down in June, and I had looked up the park hours like 2 or 3 weeks before that, and then found out that I thought I was rope dropping, and I was an hour late. So I ended up waiting like 45 minutes for Velocicoaster and Butterbeer and stuff like that, and then had to head out for an appointment and stuff. But it was still fun. But just definitely keep an eye on the park hours. One of the things that I've always wondered about with Universal, just because I haven't been there late at night with my kids, is what are the evening shows like? Are there fireworks, or is it just the Hogwarts at Christmas? Or do they have some other show that they're known for? Or is it really just at 9 o'clock you're hightailing it out of there?
No, they've done a water show, and our kids are usually like, we don't even stay up for fireworks at Disney World, but Universal Studios Florida, when we were there last at night, there's a big lake in the middle. I can't remember the name right now, but they did like a water show, with like water cannons and projection and stuff. And then they'll do different shows on Hogwarts Castle. They've done some like Dementor style ones. They've done Christmas. It just depends. But those are the big ones. I don't know if no fireworks that I
I
can
think there's
think of.
little tiny flares
Yeah.
of fireworks, but nothing like we would normally see.
No,
And they're,
no,
they're
but
definitely hyping that up for Christmas this year. It
yeah.
seems like they're going to do a really big show on the castle for.
And that's it's fun because you go there, and especially if you're like a Potterhead, just to see that, like to walk in there, it's very immersive. And then it's like, there's Hogwarts Castle. Like some people are super big into Cinderella Castle. Some people like Snow White Castle at Disneyland, but you see Hogwarts Castle. If you've read the books, you're like, that is amazing. They did such a good job on it. And then they will do some really good projections with, some upbeat music and shows. So it's fun.
Chip's laughing because he didn't get his Hogwarts letter. So when
I've
he
read 1 through 3. I've read the first 3.
When Chip walks back there, he doesn't see the castle.
Yep.
It's invisible to him. He just sees mountains and blue air because he's just not he wasn't chosen, I guess we'll say, or at least he hasn't been yet.
Gryffindor, I can't find the door.
Before we jump into listener questions, Max, did you have any other tips or tricks that you wanted to mention or things that you like to mention to guests before we jump in here to some more questions?
I mean, if you're thinking about it, just, talk to your agent, if it's Matt, me, somebody else, if you have questions about Express Pass, talk to us, especially Matt, when you get down there, you're going to get so many good like tips and pointers from the people that are doing it. But yeah, and one of the things I do with some of my guests is I'm like, if you have questions when you're down there, like shoot me a message, like, especially like this is for me at Disney, but I'm like, you're going to take 30 paces and then you're going to go left and you're going to run right into to this ride, that ride. Like I can visualize it, not as well as Universal, but I always tell people, reach out to me if you're in a jam and you don't know what to do. The other thing is like, ask somebody that works there. Like if you're like, man, we don't know the best way to go here, we don't go there, they're going to point you in the right direction. And the other thing is like, don't burn yourself out. Like you said, Matt, those parks are bigger than they look. And if all of a sudden, like you're on that first day and you just go, and you're not up for it, you're going to ruin the rest of your trip. Your legs are going to be sore. Your body's going to be tired. If you've trained for it, like if you're walking on the treadmill, like you see some of these Instagram things and people are carrying their kids and stuff, sure, go for it. But like pace yourself, make sure that you are staying within your physical limitations when you go.
And to that end, I'll just add, Universal is where travel agents are much more important, in my opinion. Not that they aren't important for Disney, because Disney is very complicated too. But when it comes to saving you money and not getting a massive bill on your vacation, there are a lot of tricks in the way that Universal does things, the way they book things, the benefits that you get from certain hotels that it's just hard for the average person to figure out. And travel agents are free, so it's certainly a benefit that you should consider, whether it's myself, Max, or somebody else. Definitely look into that. So let's jump into listener questions. We had a few that were submitted, so thanks to everybody for reaching out, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or via email. I had one via email. The first is from Christy. Are there any attractions at Universal Studios Orlando that don't accept the Express Pass? I think we talked about one being Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure earlier.
There's then there's one other one. It's Tyranodon Flyers. And that one's interesting because you have to have a kid to ride it. I've actually never ridden it because my wife took our son, but Tyranodon Flyers is in Jurassic Park and you have to be, I can't remember the height restriction, but you have to have a kid under a certain height and they can have one adult ride with them. So they don't do Express Pass on that, probably because of the whole, it's kid first. Like adults aren't even allowed on it by themselves. Like if Chip showed up to be like, I want to go on this, they'd be like, where's your kid?
I cannot wait to ride that. My 3-year-old and I both love to watch Camp Cretaceous together. And it is now themed. It's updated and themed to Camp Cretaceous. If you guys haven't watched that on Netflix and you're a Jurassic Park fan, it is very, very good. It's a fun show and it's like part of the actual storyline. So definitely check that out if you haven't. It's a hidden gem, in my opinion. Can you purchase an Express Pass on the day of your visit, or is it better to buy in advance, or is there any advantage to buying in advance? From Mike.
The one, the big thing we talked about is you can buy it there. You can buy in advance. The one thing is it could sell out, especially if you're going on those busy days. It could sell out, and I don't know if they've ever released how many they sell, but the main benefit of buying in advance is you've got it. But I've seen days where people are there and it's 3:00 and they're still able to purchase it just because they're like, man, we've waited in too many lines. Let's just buy it. So that's
oh gosh, I would be kicking myself at that point.
Yeah, just go home, get a beer somewhere.
I'd be at the
there.
City Walk drinking and contemplating a tattoo there at Hart and Huntington before I head out because I would be miserable.
Yeah.
The last question: how does the Express Pass system affect the wait times for non-Express Pass holders? This was from Nick. So I guess that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier because people get so entrenched in what we see from Disney. And I think it does have a pretty significant impact on this. I think the standby line is shorter than it normally would be because Genie Plus is so cheap. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of my general theory on that. And I think the wait time data supports it. But Max, sounds like that's not the case at Universal.
Yeah, Universal. I mean, again, I've been on rides where if you have Express Pass, you're getting on, and they're just like hammering through. I mean, if they let 20 through, and then there's a gap, and then somebody else was starting to come, they might start to let the individuals through. It just depends on the size of the ride. For like, we went on Kang and Koda's Twirl and Hurl over in Simpsons, and that one there was like 20 people in Express, and they just let all of them on, and then pretty much the ride filled up. And then we had to wait.
But the fact that they have Express Pass and things like that, it's not really impacting the standby line, right?
No,
Yeah.
not really. The only thing is that you might have to wait in the standard line to get on, but I don't really think that the standard lines are going to be that much long. No.
Gotcha. All right. That's it for listener questions. We appreciate it. As always, you can submit those on social media or via email, and we greatly appreciate it each week. We're getting to this is quickly becoming my favorite segment, but unfortunately, we have to limit our use of Universal stuff because Chip can't tell you if it's overrated or underrated because we got to get him there. So we're going into overrated or underrated. Max, this is where we talk about 3 different things. They're going to be Disney focused this week. We usually do a resort, a ride, and a food, but this time I changed it up a little bit. So we want you to tell us whether you think it's overrated or underrated and a little bit of your opinion on it. The first one, Max, do you have boy or girl or both?
Both.
What are they? Both. Okay. How old is your daughter?
7.
Okay. So I'm sure you've experienced this one before. Overrated or underrated, Bibbidi Boppity Boutique.
Money line. I'm going straight down the middle.
You can't.
Okay. So if
You can't do it.
Yeah, if you have Memory Maker, it's underrated because like the photos are priceless. Just watching. So my daughter was younger when we did it. This was like right before the pandemic hit. We got in there and did it, but it was just watching her like become a princess. Like I'm a dad, but it was still like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like watching her do this. We didn't do like the super high upgrade thing. We brought our own dress from Target. So we did like the baseline level, but it was magical, as a Disney dad, it was absolutely phenomenal just to like, and you look at the photos and they took some of us watching her and the looks on our faces was just priceless. And they have laser focus on these kids. Like there is no one else in this world. It is you and you've got your fairy godmothers and they are doing you up. They're doing your nails. They're doing your hair. And if there's some other kid over here, doesn't matter. They're not a part of this world right now. It's you. And to have that kind of attention for your child, whether it's at Disney World or a Disney Cruise Line or, whatever, it was awesome.
Now, did you do it where'd you do it at?
We did it at Grand Floridian, so we couldn't get in at Magic. But then it was kind of fun there because then you're in this magical hotel and they had a little photo area over there. And we were only a monorail stop away to get over there. So, yeah, that's where we did it.
Chip, you did yours at Disney Springs, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's underrated. It's worth every penny. We did the same thing. We bought a dress, I think off Amazon, maybe. It is worth every single penny. Like you said, the pictures are phenomenal. My daughter, she is 9 now, and she still talks about it. I think we're going to do it again this summer for both girls, just because that way they can both have an experience with it again. And it's not something you have to do every trip, but I recommend doing it at least twice for your daughters. It's one of those things you got to do at least twice for them.
Well, if you think about it, like you've only got your kids are only around in the age for like not that long. It's like 4 to I can't remember the top right now.
It's 4 to 12, I think.
Yeah, so that's only 8 possible years, and if you don't go every year, it's one of those things like you do it, and you might not ever do it again, but if you do it this once, my daughter, like you said, still remembers it, still has the shirt that she wears, and I can still like mentally picture the entire process.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about this. To me, it's absolutely underrated for all the reasons you guys just said. And I was thinking about it because my window to book it is tonight. So I'm going to be booking it it'll be my daughter's second time. We definitely don't do it every trip. And the last time we kind of did like all of it. We went all out on it. Definitely won't be doing that this time, I don't think. But she still wears the dress. And the dress is like insane quality along with the accessories and stuff. And my daughter still plays dress up and does it. I think this really encapsulates like what this show and what I started on this journey was all about. Is kind of the feeling you get as a dad when you're there with your kids. You can't put a price on it for sure. And it is the epitome of a Disney vacation when you have a daughter and you're a dad. And I hate those most expensive day ever shirts and all that kind of stuff. But this is the one time where it's like you just cut the check and you enjoy it and you don't think about the money and really, really try and have fun with it. And I don't know. The one thing I will say is try to do it as early in the morning as possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you want your daughter to be able to have the hair done and have the dress on and wear it all freaking day and get her picture with Cinderella or whatever princess she dresses up as and do all the things and go to the meals. I mean, if you can make the reservations for Cinderella's royal table the same day, you really want to do it. I can't recommend that enough. I don't think that I would do it after like 3 p.m. unless it's necessitated by a nap. But I think you really lose a lot of the value of doing it when you can't get it early in the morning. So that's my one tip when it comes to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I tell people you gotta make it early in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're all on the same page there. That makes me happy. Overrated or underrated? Phantasmic. Max, we'll start with you. What do you think?
As somebody who is never at the parks when they close, because my kids we're early park people. Like we get to the parks early and we're not usually ever there late. So because I can't say underrated for everything. So I got to say overrated because we're not going to go see it. We might see it this time. They're 7 and 5.
So you're more of a nighttime shows in general are a little overrated for the way that you do the parks.
Yeah, we will try to watch, even if it's as we're leaving, get the fireworks from Magic Kingdom. But I mean, just like the crowds and waiting around and then just the rush after, sometimes, I mean, that in itself is awful. Just like you get out of it and then you're like, man, I got to go wait for this bus. If I was staying at the Contemporary and I was at Magic Kingdom, sure, then I'm just going to walk home. Or if I'm, at one of the places by Hollywood Studios, and I guess we are staying pretty close to Hollywood. So this time we could like just walk and leave instead of waiting for a bus. Still, it's overrated.
Chip, what do you think?
It depends on your seat. If you're in the middle of the arena, it's underrated. If you're on the outskirts, it can be overrated. It's good. I'll say it's underrated just for it being a nighttime spectacular, and it's a good space. It's a great people eater in terms of that. It's a good show. It's got great songs, and I love seeing all the obscure characters. I mean, you see all 7 dwarves. I haven't seen it in a while. I guess I got to go see it again, but we enjoyed it. My wife really loved it, so I'll say it's underrated.
I'm going to say it's underrated too, only because the access to food and getting in and out of there is pretty seamless, which I appreciate. Like the stroller access, pretty seamless. Like they've got it down to a T. And I'll tell you, Chip, there's a good hack about the way they do the seating there. If you get there, you don't have to get there super early, but if you get there early enough that they're still filling in the sections, they fill the sections one by one. So if people that don't know, it's a big amphitheater and they've got bleacher seating, and they'll go from the front row to the top row of each section instead of letting you just sit wherever you want, where naturally every front row would fill and then all the way up to the top. So if you're like standing in the line and you're kind of moseying in and they're pushing you to the front and they're getting towards the top of a section, if you just kind of hang back a little bit and let them fill that section, as soon as they start to open the next one, you start walking forward again and you're going to be right up at the front. So I think that's a huge hack because if you get there, you could get there an hour early, but if you walk up at the end of the first section, you're sitting at the top.
Yeah.
And that can be a bad seat for somebody that's getting there an hour early for a show or whatever. So keep that in mind. But they have food stands at the back of the amphitheater. We loved because we just grabbed like a quick snack. They had corn dog nuggets. They weren't great. Don't It's not Casey's corn dog nuggets.
They have popcorn, ice cream, like the ice cream novelties. and
Yeah,
all
they've
that.
got the easy snacks, and with the dining plan, that's going to be nice to have because the one thing about Happily Ever After is like trying to get any kind of a snack once you start waiting around for the fireworks is an absolute nightmare. You'll lose your spot, or other people start bumping in and moving around you. At least in Phantasmic, you have a seat. So
Well,
that's
people don't move me.
well,
It's one of those. They do move around me.
you are a six
Max,
five.
I'm 6
6'6".
lineman.
Okay, I will remember that, and I will not say anything anymore to piss you off.
Max, you won't lose Chip if
All
you're
right.
hanging out with us at Walt Disney World or
That's
whatever.
true. That's true.
So maybe Chip,
Uh,
are you for hire to like bust through the lines there for people?
Pretty much. It's my wife's 6 foot, so my kids are not going to be small.
Last one of the night, overrated or underrated. This one we might at least disagree on a little. Turkey legs. Do you guys have strong opinions on this at all?
So this goes back to my last turkey leg was at Universal as opposed to Walt Disney World. I had one over in Hogsmeade Village at Islands of Adventure, and it was fine. I have certain things that I would eat over it. Like if I had to look at my list of things, it's not even top 10. Like it doesn't even come into the equation. I don't go into the parks being like, I need a turkey leg. I'm like, I need the sweet and spicy chicken waffle sandwich when I go to Magic Kingdom, or I need a Mickey bar or a Mickey pretzel. But so I'm gonna say overrated because I don't really care about it.
Yep.
It's overrated. I don't mind a turkey leg, but Matt, you being from Southwest Ohio, the only time I'm going to get a turkey leg is at the Renaissance Fair over about an hour
Oh
from where
my
we grew
gosh,
up.
that's some interesting memories right there.
But I'm not a big I don't need a turkey leg in my life. I don't even like the turkey leg when I carve it at Thanksgiving.
I'm right there with you guys. I think it's tremendously overrated. I had a guest mention to me yesterday about how he could not wait to try it because he had a bunch of friends that all they could talk about was getting this massive turkey leg. And I'm like, that's the last thing I'm eating when I go to Walt Disney World. Like, there's so many other things. Max, you hit it right on the head. Like, there's probably 10 other items that I have to eat. So I would have to be on like a 10-day vacation. I have stuffed my face with Casey's corn dogs and Dole Whips and everything else before I ever get to the point of doing a turkey leg. So I'm glad that we don't have any turkey leg guys on this episode. No turkey dads. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Max, thanks so much for joining us. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on social media or via email. I can be found at Adventures of a Disney Dad. Max, tell everybody where they can find you, email, website. We already gave your social media, but plug it again.
Yeah, I'll just go with the Magic Travel Guy stuff. Facebook, The Magic Travel Guy, Instagram, YouTube. You can find our website, themagictravelguy.com. And you can also reach me at themagictravelguy@gmail.com.
Love it. Chip, where can everybody find you?
Robinson Dad Life on Instagram, and then on X, it's just Chip Robinson.
Nobody
Not
uses
changing
X.
I'm not changing it anymore. I decided not changing it. I'm going to stick with it.
I love it. I love it. And if you're interested in having me or Max assist you in planning your next Universal or Disney vacation, please feel free to reach out. All of the links to get a free quote are in the show notes. I'll have both my link and Max's link there. Our services are free to you, and we'd love to help you plan your dream vacation. If you have a moment and you could follow, subscribe, like, and review this podcast on whatever platform you prefer, we would greatly appreciate the support. We know that you have a lot of choices when it comes to the content that you consume, and we hope this episode brightened your day a bit. And we hope you learned something about Universal and Express Pass. It was a fun topic, and we hope to be talking about Universal a little bit more here and on the site. And so we look forward to it, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.